The internet didn't just explode, it detonated. What started as a messy whisper turned into a full-blown celebrity war when Latto allegedly lost control behind the scenes after Sexyy Red dropped what insiders are calling the most disrespectful reveal of the year. And somehow, right at the center of it all sits 21 Savage. Because this isn't just gossip. This is betrayal, humiliation, and a level of exposure that has fans questioning everything they thought they knew. Sources claim it all started with a comment that wasn't supposed to go public. A joke? A shady remark? Something said in a private circle that somehow leaked. And once it hit social media, there was no stopping it. Screenshots started flying. Clips started circulating. And suddenly, Sexyy Red wasn't just talking. She was allegedly revealing details about a relationship that was never meant to be fully seen. And when Latto caught wind of it, everything spiraled. We are talking about a reaction so intense that insiders are describing it as a full emotional eruption. Phones blowing up. Messages sent and deleted. A confrontation that allegedly got so heated, people nearby thought it was about to turn physical. And the reason it hit so hard? Because what was said didn't just embarrass her, it exposed something deeper. Something personal. Something messy. And here's where it gets even worse. Because according to multiple sources, there are leaked voice notes, yes, actual recordings, where tones shift, voices crack, and one line stands out above everything else. You really thought nobody was gonna say anything. That one sentence changed the entire narrative. Now the internet is in chaos. Fans are picking sides. Old interviews are being reanalyzed. Every move from 21 Savage is being watched under a microscope. And celebrities? They are starting to react, throwing subtle shade that's only making things messier. But here's the part nobody can explain. Why now? Why would Sexyy Red choose this moment to speak? And what exactly did she reveal that pushed Latto over the edge so fast? Because if the rumors are true, what comes next isn't just drama. It's exposure that could change everything. And trust me, this is only the beginning. The moment the first clip hit the timeline, everything changed. Not gradually, not subtly, instantly. 1 second, the internet was doing what it always does, scrolling, joking, speculating. The next second, it was locked in, fully obsessed, trying to decode what Sexyy Red had just said, and what it really meant for Latto and 21 Savage. Because it wasn't just the words, it was the tone. The delivery. The confidence. The kind of energy that only comes from someone who feels like they know something real. And according to insiders, that's exactly what made it hit so hard. The clip itself didn't look explosive at first glance. No yelling. No dramatic confrontation. Just Sexyy Red speaking casually, almost playfully, like she was letting something slip without fully saying it. But that's what made it dangerous. Because when you listen closely, when you slow it down, when you actually pay attention to what's being implied instead of what's being said, that's when it lands. She wasn't just joking. She was hinting. And the internet caught it immediately. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, group chats, people were reposting it, reacting to it, breaking it down like it was evidence in a trial. Every word was being analyzed. Every pause was being questioned. And the biggest question of all started trending almost instantly. What does she know? Because whatever it was, it clearly wasn't new. It sounded like something that had been sitting there, unspoken, waiting for the right moment to surface. And the way Sexyy Red delivered it. It didn't feel like gossip. It felt like confirmation. That's when the pressure shifted directly onto Latto. Because up until that moment, the narrative had been controlled. Carefully. Strategically. There were rumors, sure. There were whispers about her connection with 21 Savage, but nothing that fully broke through. Nothing that forced a reaction. It was all speculation, until now. Now it felt real. Now it felt exposed. And according to sources close to the situation, Latto didn't find out about the clip the way most people did. She didn't casually scroll past it. She didn't see it trending. She heard about it directly, through calls, through messages, through people urgently asking if she had seen what was being said. And the moment she did, everything shifted. Insiders describe her initial reaction as disbelief. Not anger, not yet. Just shock. The kind of still, quiet moment where you're trying to process what you're hearing and hoping it's being misunderstood. But that didn't last long. Because once she watched the clip herself, once she saw how it was being received, once she realized how fast it was spreading, that disbelief turned into something else. Something sharper. Something louder. Because this wasn't just a comment. This was a narrative being rewritten in real time. And it didn't take long for that realization to hit. Sources claim that within minutes, phones started lighting up. Messages being sent rapidly. Some calm. Some not. Some reportedly deleted almost as quickly as they were written. Because when emotions hit that fast, control becomes optional. And this is where things start to escalate. Because according to multiple insider accounts, Latto didn't stay quiet behind the scenes. She allegedly reached out directly. Not publicly. Not through social media. Privately. Direct communication. And that conversation, it didn't go well. What started as questioning quickly turned into confrontation. Not screaming, not chaotic, but intense. Direct. Unfiltered. The kind of exchange where both sides know exactly what's being said without needing to spell it out completely. And here's the detail that keeps coming up in every version of the story. At some point during that exchange, one line was allegedly said that changed the entire tone. You knew what you were doing. That wasn't a question. That was an accusation. And accusations don't come out of nowhere. That line alone sent insiders into a frenzy because it suggested something bigger than a random comment. It suggested intent. Strategy. Timing. Like this wasn't just something that slipped out, this was something that was chosen to be said now. And if that's true, then this wasn't just messy. It was calculated. Meanwhile, the internet had already gone into full chaos mode. Clips were being remixed. Memes were being created. Old footage of Latto and 21 Savage started resurfacing. Interviews from months, sometimes years, ago were suddenly being re-examined with a completely different perspective. Moments that once felt normal now looked suspicious. Body language. Timing. Even lyrics. Everything was being questioned. And then came the next wave. Screenshots. Not verified. Not confirmed. But detailed enough to feel real. Alleged messages that hinted at tension building long before this moment. Subtle shade. Indirect comments. Conversations that didn't look explosive on their own, but together, they painted a picture of something simmering under the surface. Something unresolved. Because this wasn't their first moment of tension. That's what made this different. This wasn't random. This was history resurfacing. And right in the middle of it all, 21 Savage remained completely silent. No posts. No reactions. No statements. Nothing. And that silence, it didn't calm anything down. It made everything louder. Because when two people are at the center of chaos, and one of them says nothing, people start filling in the gaps themselves. They start assuming. Connecting dots. Creating narratives that may or may not be true, but feel real enough to spread. And spread they did. Fast. Some people started questioning his role in all of this. Others focused entirely on the tension between the two women. But one thing was clear across every platform: this situation was no longer private. It was public. Fully. And it was spiraling. Then, just when it seemed like things couldn't get more intense, another detail surfaced. An alleged voice note. Short. Unconfirmed. But explosive. People claimed it captured part of that private confrontation. Raised voices. Frustration. And one specific phrase that immediately went viral. "Don't play with me like that." That line alone was enough to send everything into another level of chaos. Because now, this wasn't just about what was said publicly. It was about what was happening behind the scenes. And the gap between those two things. That's where the real story lives. At this point, the situation wasn't slowing down, it was building. Layer by layer. Reaction by reaction. And the most dangerous part. Nobody involved had actually said anything officially yet. Which means everything people were seeing, hearing, reacting to was only part of the story. And if this is what the situation looks like before anyone has spoken out, then whatever comes next is going to hit even harder. The silence didn't last. It couldn't. Because when something reaches that level of public chaos, when every platform is dissecting your name, your choices, your relationships in real time, silence stops being control and starts looking like surrender. And according to multiple insiders, Latto knew exactly how quickly that shift was happening. So she moved. But not the way people expected. There was no immediate Instagram live. No emotional rant. No explosive tweet storm. Instead, what happened first was quieter, more controlled, and somehow even more intense. A series of cryptic posts began appearing, not directly addressing Sexyy, not naming 21 Savage, but loaded with enough subtext that the internet instantly connected the dots. Short captions. Sharp wording. Lines about respect, about boundaries, about people speaking on things they don't understand. And just like that, the tone shifted again. Because now it wasn't just speculation anymore. Now it felt like response. The first post dropped late at night. No explanation. Just a photo, calm, composed, controlled, with a caption that read like a warning disguised as confidence. Within minutes, it had millions of views. Within an hour, it was everywhere. Screenshots, reposts, reaction videos. People weren't just reading it, they were decoding it. And they all came to the same conclusion. This was about Sexyy. But it didn't stop there. Because what happened next is what really sent everything into overdrive. A second post appeared. Then a third. Each one sharper than the last. Each one sounding less like reflection and more like confrontation. And then came the line that changed everything. "Stop speaking on my name like you're part of my story." That wasn't vague. That wasn't subtle. That was direct without being direct. And the internet lost it. Within seconds, fans started choosing sides. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Some people defended Latto, saying she had every right to speak up, that lines had been crossed. Others backed Sexyy, claiming she was just saying what everyone had been thinking. And right in the middle of that chaos, more leaks. Because according to multiple gossip pages, a set of alleged DMS surfaced, messages that looked like they came from someone inside the circle. Not verified, not confirmed, but detailed enough to feel dangerously real. These messages suggested that tension between Latto and Sexyy had been building for months. Not publicly. Privately. Subtle shade. Ignored comments. Moments where one would post something and the other wouldn't acknowledge it. Nothing explosive on its own, but together, it painted a picture of a relationship that was already fragile before this moment ever happened. And then came the most explosive detail yet. A claim that there was a private event, one that both of them attended, where things allegedly got tense in person. No cameras. No recordings. Just witnesses. According to insiders, the energy in that room was already off. Conversations that didn't last long. Eye contact that didn't hold. Smiles that didn't feel real. And at some point during that night, something was said. Not loud. Not dramatic. But enough to shift the entire vibe. Enough that people in the room noticed. Enough that it didn't feel like things were okay anymore. And now, looking back at that moment after everything that's happening now, people are calling it the beginning of the breakdown. Because what we are seeing now didn't start with that clip. That clip just exposed it. Meanwhile, the online chaos kept escalating. TikTok creators started breaking down timelines. Twitter threads appeared connecting old interviews, old lyrics, old photos. Even fans who had never paid attention to the situation before were suddenly fully invested, trying to piece together what was real and what wasn't. And then celebrities started reacting. Subtle at first. A like here. A comment there. Nothing direct, but enough to add fuel to the fire. Because when other names start getting involved, even indirectly, it makes everything feel bigger. More serious. More real. And still, through all of this, 21 Savage remained silent. No post. No statement. No denial. Nothing. And that silence. It started to feel intentional. Because at this point, it wasn't just noticeable, it was deafening. People began asking questions. Why hasn't he said anything? Why hasn't he stepped in? Why is he letting this play out publicly without addressing it? And that's when another theory started spreading. A dangerous one. That maybe his silence wasn't about avoiding drama. Maybe it was about not contradicting anything. Because the more people replayed Sexyy Red's original clip, the more they started to believe that what she said wasn't just messy, it might actually be rooted in something real. And if that's true, then his silence isn't neutral. It's confirmation. At least, that's how the internet is reading it. Meanwhile, insiders claim that behind the scenes, things were getting even more intense. More conversations. More confrontations. More pressure. Because once something like this goes public, there's no controlling it anymore. You can respond. You can deny. You can try to redirect, but you can't stop it. And according to sources, that reality started hitting hard. Especially for Latto. Because now it wasn't just about defending herself. It was about protecting her image. Her narrative. Her version of the story. And the problem? That version was starting to slip. Because too many voices were speaking at once. Too many details were surfacing. Too many questions were being asked. And none of them had clear answers. Then, just as the situation seemed like it couldn't get any more explosive, a new clip surfaced. Short. Blurry. But unmistakable. It allegedly showed Latto at a recent event, visibly upset, surrounded by people trying to calm her down. No audio. No context. But the body language said enough. Frustration. Tension. Emotion. And the moment that clip hit the internet, everything changed again. Because now, this wasn't just online drama. It was spilling into real life. Publicly. Visibly. And people started asking a new question. If this is how things look in public, what's happening behind closed doors? Because whatever it is, it's clearly bigger than anyone thought. And if this is only the middle of the story, then whatever comes next is going to be even harder to contain. And just when it felt like the chaos had reached its peak, everything cracked wide open in a way nobody saw coming. Because behind all the posts, the reactions, the speculation, there was one thing the internet had been begging for, and it finally surfaced. Audio. Not clean. Not perfectly clear. But clear enough. A leaked voice recording began circulating late into the night, first on private pages, then exploding onto mainstream platforms within minutes. Nobody could confirm who released it, but according to sources close to the situation, it allegedly captured a heated exchange involving Latto, and what people heard instantly shifted the entire narrative. The tone wasn't calm. It wasn't composed. It was raw. Frustrated. Emotional. Controlled anger barely holding itself together. And the words. They weren't vague. They weren't cryptic. They sounded personal. The voice in the clip, allegedly hers, was heard saying something about being disrespected publicly, about people playing with her name for clout, and then the line that sent shockwaves across every timeline. "Y'all don't know half of what I've been dealing with." That sentence alone changed everything. Because suddenly, this wasn't just gossip anymore. It felt like there was a hidden side to this story, one that hadn't been fully exposed yet. Within seconds, fans started breaking the clip down frame by frame, tone by tone, word by word. Some believed it was authentic. Others called it staged. But one thing was undeniable: it added fuel to a fire that was already out of control. And then came the reaction. Sexy Red didn't stay quiet this time. Not even a little bit. Instead of backing off, she leaned in, and what she posted next felt less like a response and more like a direct challenge. A short video, filmed casually but loaded with energy, dropped onto her page with a caption that didn't mention any names, but didn't need to. "Don't get mad when the truth finally gets said." That was it. No explanation. No context. But the internet didn't need either. Because within seconds, people connected it directly back to the audio leak. And just like that, the situation escalated from tension to open conflict. Now it wasn't just fans arguing. It was two major names indirectly firing at each other in real time. And the reactions? Immediate. Explosive. Unforgiving. Twitter timelines turned into war zones. TikTok flooded with side-by-side breakdowns. Instagram comments hit levels of chaos that moderators couldn't even keep up with. People weren't just watching anymore. They were picking sides. Hard. Some stood firmly behind Latto, arguing that she was being pushed, that boundaries were being crossed publicly in a way no one could ignore. Others rallied behind Sexy Red, claiming she was exposing something real, something people had been whispering about for years. And right in the center of all this noise, still no word from 21 Savage. But this time, his silence didn't just feel loud. It felt strategic. Because as the situation spiraled, a new rumor began circulating, one that took everything to an entirely different level. According to multiple insider accounts, there were allegedly conversations happening behind the scenes involving damage control. Not just for one person, but for everyone connected to this situation. Publicists, managers, legal teams, all reportedly trying to figure out how to contain something that was now completely out of control. And that's when things got even darker. Because another set of alleged messages leaked, this time claiming that there had been attempts to stop certain clips from spreading. Attempts to pull content down. Attempts to keep specific details from reaching a wider audience. Nothing officially confirmed. But enough to make people question everything. Because when people start trying to control what gets seen and what doesn't, it makes the audience wonder what's being hidden. And that question, it spread faster than anything else. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about who said what. It became about what hasn't been said yet. What hasn't been shown. What hasn't been exposed. Meanwhile, things behind the scenes reportedly hit a breaking point. Sources claim there was a private confrontation, no cameras, no recordings, just voices raised and tensions finally boiling over. Details remain unclear, but the aftermath, that part is loud. Because shortly after that alleged moment, everything went quiet. No new posts. No new clips. No responses. Just silence. But this time, it wasn't calm silence. It was the kind of silence that feels like something is about to happen. The kind that makes people refresh their feeds every few seconds, waiting for the next drop. And the internet, it hasn't stopped. Fans are still digging. Still analyzing. Still connecting dots. Because at this point, nobody believes this is over. Not even close. Too many questions are still unanswered. Too many details don't line up. Too many moments feel like they are only part of a bigger story. And the biggest question of all, what happens when someone finally decides to say everything? Because if what we've seen so far is just pieces, then the full picture, that might be something none of them are ready for. And as the tension builds, as the silence stretches, as the speculation grows louder by the second, one thing is becoming impossible to ignore. This isn't just drama anymore. This is a situation that's unraveling in real time. And whatever comes next, it's not going to be subtle. It's not going to be quiet. And it's definitely not going to be easy to contain. If you made it this far, you already know this is not just another celebrity headline you scroll past and forget. This is one of those moments that people are going to be talking about for months, maybe even years, because every single piece of this situation still feels unfinished, unresolved, and dangerously close to exploding all over again. So now it's your turn. I need you to really think about everything you just heard. Who do you believe? Do you think Latto is reacting to something deeper that hasn't fully come out yet? Or do you think Sexyy Red just said what everyone else was too scared to say out loud? And what about 21 Savage? Is that silence calculated? Or is it telling us everything we need to know without a single word? Don't just watch this and move on. Drop your full opinion in the comments right now, because the conversation happening down there is just as intense as the story itself. I read everything, and trust me, the wildest theories always come from you. And if you think this situation is over, you're already behind. Things are still developing, more leaks could drop at any second, and when they do, you do not want to be the last one finding out. Hit that like button if this blew your mind. Subscribe right now so you don't miss the next update. Turn on notifications, because the next twist in this story could happen literally overnight. Stay locked in, stay watching, and most importantly, stay ready.